Social media has grown as a powerful tool for giving people a platform for simply being themselves. So legally, what differentiates me from someone like Kim Kardashian? Public and private figures have different standards when it comes to the law. I'm Olivia Morrissey, a communications major at Franklin Pierce University, and on this episode of The Line Between Public and Private, I'm here to discuss these legal standards. Today I'm joined with Madison Leslie, who is a senior here at FPU, majoring also in communications and plays lacrosse. So today we're going to talk about your media presence, and can you tell me a little bit more about what you do?
So I started my Instagram a while ago. I started it when everybody had their personal Instagrams, and I was in high school. It was just Maddie Leslie, and then when I got to college, I wanted to kind of rebrand myself and just kind of call myself Mads, and that changed into She Is Mads. It was all started off a little bit as a joke because I wanted it to be something kind of funny, and so I was like, She Is Mad, and I was like, oh, Mads, that kind of works hand in hand. And so it kind of started off as a joke, and then I really enjoyed posting a lot, and so I kind of went from there. And part of my social media has turned into something that I want to do for a living and what I want to do for a career. I love Sorry, I'm thinking about it. Where this, something that I wanted to start doing was posting things just for fun and just to kind of show who I was as a person, and then that kind of changed into when I wanted to be more real online. I posted something in, I believe it was 2019. I posted kind of a bikini picture that I just wasn't feeling very confident in, and I talked about what I wasn't feeling confident in, and I received a lot of comments back. I received a lot of people saying that they related to that and that it helped them overcome that insecurity, and I thought, hey, this is something that I would like to talk about, that I can talk about my own insecurities and other people can feel empowered by finding a way to overcome some things that they struggle with, and we can create this supportive community. And I kind of ran with that because if I could make a difference in somebody else's life, I thought that was something more useful that I could do with my social media. And it honestly has helped me in every aspect of my life. I've really grown as a person in that I've struggled with a lot of insecurities and a lot of mental health things, and so by opening up about that on social media, that's helped me, and to have that supportive community on my back. And so that's why I wanted to create something to help other people as well, so that they have that supportive community.
I wanted to ask if this was a plan from the get-go, because your Instagram is very professional, but it's still very you. So I didn't know if that was the goal. So that's kind of great to hear that you didn't mean it, just was a positive thing that came out of this.
Yeah, it all started as a joke, and then it kind of transformed from there. That I wanted to take it more seriously, and that social media started to really grow, especially growing through these past 4 years. And so that I figured that was something with my degree, I could learn a lot of things through the communications department and how I could translate that into my own personal endeavors.
All right, so talking about legal issues now, is there anything that you've come across using social media, even from copyright, just anything legally that you've had to deal with?
I just think the number one thing that you have to take into account is what you're tying your name to. So when I'm looking at collaborations, I get emails and DMs about just collaborating with different companies, and also reaching out to different companies and seeing if they want collabs, and looking at what their business mission is, and if I want my name attached to that. So being very careful about that. And I haven't really run into anything legally here and there with certain collaborations. I worked with Hidden Opponent on a fundraiser, and we had a legal document just to make sure that everyone's doing their thing and making sure the money's going all to the right places. But that's really all that I've had to that's all that I've come in with.
So has there been situations with defamation or even bullying that you've had to come across and just accept, or how do you deal with hate online, I guess?
My platform isn't that big, and so I haven't had to deal with that many like hate comments, but there are things here and there that pop up, and it's never fun to see those. But as far as defamation, I just think you have to be very careful what you say online, no matter who you are right now, especially with the growing popularity of cancel culture. So
Right.
just being very strict on how you word things and making sure that you're not going to offend anyone, because that's the last thing that I want to do is ever offend somebody. And so just making sure that you're being careful on what you're wording. But as far as bullying and like hate comments, like I said, they're here and there. Like I get a couple like, oh, you look like a 40-year-old woman, like stuff like that.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
God.
oh, I'm literally
So mean.
22, but thanks.
Uh-huh.
So just dealing with those comments is you have to take them with a grain of salt, because people are going to have their opinions of you no matter what. And so just post when you're putting yourself out there, you have to realize that you are going to get those opinions, because you're putting your face on a platform, and you're giving everybody basically the accessibility to have an opinion on you.
Right.
And so you have to take those comments and really just push them to the side, because everyone's going to have something to say, and it doesn't really, their opinion is really none of your business. And so that's something that I always try to say when those comments come in, is that it's not my place to really look at those, because what they have to say about me shouldn't affect me. That what they have to say is not really, shouldn't affect me in the long run, because that's not my overall purpose.
Okay, true. Because, like, I was thinking about it, like, if someone were to comment on, if I were to post a bikini pic and someone were to just be like, yeah, you're a 40-year-old woman or whatever, then I'd be like, where the hell did this come from? Like, that's so weird. But, like, you're someone very confident on the internet, and I feel like people hate that. So they would definitely want to, like, tear you down with that.
It's like, knock her down a peg, please. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels
Which is
like
so messed up.
sometimes. I'm like, no, we're all here. So whenever I get some of those comments, sometimes I'll just, like, send something back and just be, because I try to respond to everything, and I'll just send something back and be like, oh, like, I'm sorry, but, like, I hope you have a good day.
Aw.
Like, just kind of, like, kill them with kindness,
Uh-huh.
you know? Just
No, exactly.
But, like, in one of your previous questions about, like, stalkers and things like that, I've had some, hold on. Putting yourself out there, you have to realize that like I said, you're putting yourself in a position where people are going to make those judgments, or people are
Right.
going to have all this access to you. And I'm a very public person online, and that's something that I wanted to do, because I wanted to show every aspect of myself, and sometimes I kind of forget what I post out there.
Really?
And yeah, like people will come up to me and say things and be like, oh, how did this go? And I'm like, oh, how did you know that?
Oh.
And I'm
okay,
like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, I like
Uh-huh.
posted an Instagram story. But I had an encounter one time that was a little unnerving, as like I was out with some friends, and I had somebody come up to me, and they're like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you're real. And I was like, oh. And then they were saying like, oh, you weren't answering my messages. Why wouldn't you answer me? Da 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 da. And I was like, I don't really know.
You've
what
never
to say.
seen, like, they weren't on Franklin Pierce? or
No,
anything?
it was just somebody online,
Jeez.
and I had no idea who they were. And I was really caught off guard. And like, that's something that as my platform has been growing, like, slowly, that I have to take that into account, that encounters like that are going to happen. And
Right.
it's a little strange.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much for being on the line between public and private. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and I think that's it.
Perfect.
No,
I'm
that was
sorry
really
I
good.
ramble a lot.
No, you're fine. Madison offered a lot of insight on what it's like to be a public figure, and luckily she hasn't had to deal with too many legal issues besides making sure her name is connected to something she wants to be associated with. Some legal issues that can be involved, like mentioned earlier, is slander. Again, luckily Madison hasn't experienced anything too harsh being on social media. So what exactly does slander mean for a public person in the eyes of the law? In 1964, in the court case of New York Times Company versus Sullivan, introduced the legal differences between how a public or private person has to be handled in a libel case. In this case, during the civil rights movement, the New York Times published an ad that contained contributing donations to defend Martin Luther King Jr. This ad had several mistakes. L.B. Sullivan, who was the city's public safety commissioner, wrote to the Times wanting the ad removed, even though he wasn't directly in the ad. He felt that the criticisms of the people below him reflected on him. The New York Times refused to remove the ad, and in a state court, the jury awarded Sullivan $500,000 in damages. The Times then appealed. In Supreme Court, they unanimously ruled in the Times' favor. The court decided that because when a public figure is involved, being false isn't enough to show libel. Instead, there has to be actual malice. Like almost everything involving the law, there are so many gray areas and nuances that have to be heavily considered for a court to come to a decision. In this instance, Sullivan was considered a public figure due to his position. But if the same thing happened to Madison, would a court still view her enough as a public figure? Let's hope she'll never have to find out. That's all for The Line Between Public and Private. I'm Olivia Morrissey, and thank you for listening.